Listeners, Dee and Daniel here. It's been a rough week for me. Ever since I forgot to thank the patrons in the previous episode, my hosts have stopped feeding me dice. So thank you to Mario, Hedwig, Matt, Satin Rabbit, and Jamie for your support. Please keep listening, and maybe I will be fed dice once more. I need to live.
Hello and welcome to the Probably Bad Podcast, a podcast which is definitely bad. I'm Pencil.
I'm Paper. And as this is our 20th episode, we're following up our We Watched the D&D movie by watching the second D&D movie, Wrath of the Dragon God, which is a TV movie containing only one character from the original movie.
It's not very good.
No,
It does do very well capturing the feel of being in an RPG D&D campaign that you don't want to be in and don't really like any of the other players in. It is set 100 years after, so every other character is dead. So I hope you didn't get invested to any of them, but let's be honest, you probably didn't.
I mean, the only character I cared about in the first one did canonically die. And then they kind of set up like they were going to do a sequel where they bring him back to life, and then they did this instead.
But it does capture very well the feeling of being in a poorly planned D&D campaign with people you don't really like, but isn't quite bad enough that you actively leave.
Yeah, it's my favorite part though of bringing Damodar back is he was the sort of head henchman in the first one, who I think we just called the blue-lipped guy. In this one, he's not wearing his lovely blue lipstick. He's just the normal-looking guy.
It is... Yeah, I don't quite know why they got rid of that, because it's like his only distinguishing characteristic. Now he's back. He's undead now. And there's a scene...
No, he's not undead.
Oh, he's not undead.
100 years as, trapped in undead pain as a curse, which drove him insane, but now he's not in undead pain anymore. He's just back. But,
yeah, the thing is,
but now he's cross.
We cut to scenes of him, doing his plans. And they're all really fucking weird. There's a scene where they just pour blood in his spine through a funnel. And there's a scene where he's getting, a foot massage from a goblin in BDSM gear.
Yeah, it's just a good film.
We just occasionally cut to him doing whatever the fuck it is. Neither of these things are ever followed up on. It's never specified.
For exposition, I'm still unclear of what his actual long-term goal was.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was. He was trying to get revenge on the nation that turned him into. Except they didn't turn him into an undead. Someone else did that.
No, a specific guy who was very much killed by dragons.
Yeah.
While he was there, this guy's dead, and that no one likes him.
General revenge, just as a concept. But yeah, so he was not the most three-dimensional villain. It was never brought up why he was having blood poured in his spine.
No, I think it's meant to be just sort of general dark magics, probably spelled with a K.
But yeah, because he's not a vampire, and he's not he doesn't do blood magic or anything. It's just a thing he does sometimes.
It's just this thing. Everyone has a thing. But the other main three characters, though, Lord Beric and his wife Melora, and also the random old guy, they all look like the casting director wanted like very specific people, but couldn't get them. They looked really eerily similar to Ian McDiarmid, James McAvoy, and Emilia Clarke. Except they definitely weren't any of those people. And it really freaked me out because I kept sitting there like, where do I know them from? And turns out I knew them from being other people.
Yeah. The main character is a generic lord of this fantasy place.
Alright.
That's the one. Has a very gay interaction with his head of the guard. Like, there's the line, "Would you like to come to my room and joust with quills?"
Except there's a really long pause before the word quills.
Go to my room and joust with quills. So they're banging.
Yeah. Well,
And
his
then
wife's too busy trying to multi-class.
yeah, his wife's main motivation is that she's a wizard and she wants to take a level in cleric, essentially. Like, she wants to know how to do divine magic.
Because that would make her more politically powerful than being the Lord's wife, apparently.
But yeah, like, it's one of those things that's slightly weird in D&D terms, because it does end with her taking a level of cleric and then, saving the day. But yeah, her motivation is she wants to multiclass.
And through trying to multi-class, she becomes cursed, so the plot of the thing is less about Damodar and more about dealing with whatever has cursed her for daring to try and multi-class.
But yeah, they collect they collect 4 adventurers with no real pretext other than we're in a D&D movie and we need to collect 4 adventurers.
Yes, the first half an hour is Damodar being weird, and okay, so we need a barbarian, a cleric, a wizard, and a rogue. The one creative part of the party gathering, I think, is that the barbarian's a woman. Ooh!
But yeah, otherwise it's just
Has no
like,
personality.
yeah, there's an elf wizard, because of course there's an elf wizard. And it's almost impressive how much
The whole time.
it's almost impressive how much he refuses to get a personality. Like, she just refuses to do anything that distinguishes her in any way from every other elven wizard.
Yeah, if you've ever played in a campaign and there's one person that is just determined to be an aloof arsehole, despite it being a collaborative game, that's Ormeline. We
Like,
have
I
a
think
name for it now.
I think it's genuinely like a good halfway through the movie before she actually says something other than a spell.
I think so. Saying about Ormeline, though, can we talk about the names for a second? Like, I get that these names are largely from, like, canon 3rd edition stuff, but you can't just call your magical fantasy place Inverness. That's a place. That's an actual place already. And you also can't call a place Kirtle, because that's just a fucking skirt. The Goblins of Kirtle, or the Skirt Goblins. I have problems with this.
Like, luckily I don't have these problems, so I forgot every single name the instant after they said them. To be fair, the rogue is only referred to as rogue for the entire movie. Except for, like, once or twice.
No, his name is Nim.
Ah.
Yes, the party are called Lux, Dorian, Ormeline, and Nim.
But yeah, there is the world's most generic wizard. The world's most generic cleric, who dies before he develops he has one like monologue on faith and dies.
Yeah, the film was very pro-religion.
Yeah.
Like, just religion in general.
But yeah, the only way to defeat dragons is by faith. Which isn't... It's certainly immoral. Yeah, there's the barbarian, who is, as mentioned, a woman, and she has some tragic backstory relating to her brother murdered a bunch of people.
It doesn't really come up.
Yeah, like someone says dramatically, you're not like your brother, which would possibly be more like resonant if she'd given any indication that she was. And there's the Rogue, who's the biggest asshole on the planet.
Yeah.
Just
The
an
barbarian
awful
also, like, I think doesn't really have a grasp of the scale of what's happening. Because at one point the four of them they're trying to solve this puzzle in the woods, and this literal army shows up, and she declares that they are bandits and they need to fight them.
Yeah, what is happening is that the lipstick man, no longer having lipstick, has found an evil orb that summons a plague dragon and is going to use it to kill everyone.
The plague dragon is legitimately cool.
Yeah.
Like there's a lich called Clax and everything, with 2 X's.
Clax is my favourite character.
Clax is the only good actor.
He just shows, like, his little thing is he shows up. So yeah, he's trying to summon a dragon to kill everything. And Clax shows up like, hey, I hear you're doing evil bullshit. I like evil bullshit. I would like to get involved in this evil bullshit. That's his entire motivation, is just he knows evil is happening and he wants to be included. And then at the end, when things like start turning against the villains, he just does essentially, ha, you've been punked, I wasn't part of this at all, turns into a gargoyle and flies away. He has no backstory or personality, and I love him.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about the film that both of our favorite characters, who, as I said, is also the only person who can act in this whole film, basically shows up for shits and giggles, and then when things start to go wrong, just flies away.
But yes, anyway, so they have to get the orb off the evil man. They find the 4 other members of the party. I genuinely couldn't tell you where they know them from, or how they know them, or why they agreed to join the quest.
I think they're just sort of generally well-known people.
But yeah, like there's no.
According to Gary Gygax, they're level 7 characters, so I guess they're just sort of known.
But yeah, like there's no scene of them like actually being hired or persuaded to join. They're just mentioned they're on the team. So yeah, they go off to find
There's
a
a lot of
scrying.
ADR while they're recruiting as well, like a weird, very noticeable amount. It's like they were rewriting the film in the editing. It's very weird. Like they realized they hadn't put in enough exposition, so they recorded a load of ADR, and then there still wasn't enough exposition.
There was a lot of exposition.
There was a lot, but not enough to actually know what was going on.
Yeah, there's still like a load of things. Like at one point, one of the characters turns out to be a secret gargoyle, which is my favorite plot twist I go to include in everything I've ever written.
He's a secret gargoyle. I think he's a shapeshifter because he shapeshifts into the cleric at one point. Like, I appreciate his choice to become a gargoyle in order to peace out, but I think he's just a lich who shapeshifts.
Fair, but still, I just love a scene where someone dramatically pulls off their disguise to reveal they're a gargoyle, laughs and flies away. It's my favourite dramatic reveal.
If I could draw, I would be drawing fan art of that scene right now.
Just for an actual idea, if you like need a dramatic reveal in your campaign, just have any character just be like, haha, I was a gargoyle this whole time, take off their mask and fly out of the game. Yeah. So yeah, they need to go find a scrying thing to find out where the big bad is. And at the same time, the cursed wife is trying to unlock a book of elemental power.
Which she realizes that there's something important going on because there's a very minor typo.
Yeah, she sets the book on fire because the pages are listed. I think it was 363 and
Page
365.
893 is missing,
Yeah.
which is definitely not just a mistake because these pages were fucking hand numbered.
Yeah, and she sets it on fire because it says fire reveals everything, and it turns out that does lead you to the clue. But it would be hilarious if she just burned the book and it's just, yeah, they miscounted.
Congrats, you just destroyed someone's life's work.
Yeah, she needs to burn the book to show that she has faith in the book. Because that's how books work. As mentioned, this is a weirdly pro-religious movie for a D&D campaign. Yeah, there's another villain who's trying to track down called Malakar, who's like a dead villain, but they're trying to find the magical thing he had.
I honestly couldn't work out what his purpose was except it just MacGuffin haver.
Yeah, he figures he buried his MacGuffin in a tomb. Like the only thing we have of what he did is he used scrying to find virgins on their wedding day, teleported into their room and stabbed them.
Which again is a very minor thing. It has no bearing on the plot. It's just a thing about him.
It has no bearing on the plot. It's also just such a specifically asshole thing to do. Like, just such a specific kind of evil that you get known for.
Didn't he also make the password to his lair his boss's name?
Yeah, the password to his lair was his boss's name. Yeah, so that's all this guy
Being
did was
an actual demon.
Yeah. But all he did was teleport around and stab virgins, and that's what he's still known for, like 100 years after his death. He's a strange man.
Yeah. But he knew what he was about.
Yeah. But yeah, we should probably cut out this
The thing is, so part of the sort of critical response was it was more like an actual D&D campaign than the first one. Which it is. But we also barely spend any time actually with the party. It's mostly just things happening around them.
Yeah.
Like, if it is a campaign, it's one with a lot of cutscenes.
Yeah, like the players, I think the fundamental problem is none of the party members, as mentioned, none of the party members have a personality.
Even Lord Beric, who's supposedly the protagonist and is also the leader of the party, like, his entire personality is, well, gotta save my stupid wife.
He's very generically protagonist. He is good in a generically wholesome, good way.
He's a good person, he's not a good character.
Yeah. He's the protagonist, and that's his thing. That's his entire thing.
You half expect him to start just like standing dramatically in places like Gallivant. But of course, Gallivant is a character with a personality.
Yeah, it sort of feels almost like a parody of D&D campaign, but like played seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go. Oh, so there's a scene at the start. Sorry, I just remembered this scene where this town is full of poison gas, and they try to figure out what causes it. And the guy just walks over, wipes some mud off a rock, and the rock turns out to have been a dragon this whole time. There's just been a muddy dragon in this village that's been killing everyone, and they've just been assuming it was a rock.
Which I'm 100% sure we've done an idea on this podcast very similar to that.
Yeah, it's just he just wipes it off and there's just an eye there. It's like, yep, this isn't a rock. It's just been breathing poison gas on the tower, and everyone's just been, rocks don't do that.
With monsters as well. There was the Magmins, which are basically just little lava babies.
They were very adorable, I feel.
They're very cute, and they're a very interesting creature. I'm unclear why they were there.
Yeah, like there was a lot, like it had a lot of random encounters, essentially. Which again is true to the story, true to the game, but doesn't exactly make a good story. Because there's a lot of scenes where just some random evil bullshit will show up. And then they fight it for a bit, and then they just leave.
Yeah, and you assume that it's connected in some way, but it couldn't tell you how. Like,
Well,
yeah, there's some sort of elemental threat, so there's lava babies.
Yeah, they mentioned that like the army that was mentioned earlier that attacked them was sent by the big bad, but I don't think like a lot of things never come up again.
Yeah, the Magmins are just there. Sometimes there's just lava babies, and you have to deal with that.
Like it sort of, it sort of provides a living, breathing world in the sense of there's clearly a lot of things that the main characters have absolutely no interest in that will presumably tie us together, but we're not going to learn what they are because the main characters aren't going to do that.
It isn't relevant to Harry's journey.
Yeah. Like, I feel there would be a lot of lore if anyone was interested in explaining why there's a lava baby now.
To be fair, there is a lot of lore, and it's the D&D 3rd edition content.
But yeah, so yeah, the guy, yeah, they they get their way through the puzzle. The puzzle is like, I think the puzzle's a legitimately cool puzzle. Like,
Yeah,
there's a
I
mirror.
like the puzzle, even if
There's a mirror.
the answer is the guy's boss.
I guess it's using password as password. And yeah, there's another one inside where there's a mirror, and the mirror like reflects the path across a bunch of lasers. They killed it. They killed the wizard's familiar. That's about as close as she gets to like any kind of characterization. But yeah, they scryed her.
I didn't care about any of the deaths, and cared less and less as the film went on because the body count was remarkable.
Yeah, like for such a kind of straightforward fantasy one, a lot of people straight up fucking die. Like a lot of main characters just straight up die casually. But yeah, so yeah, they get the orb and take it back and give it to the head wizard, who, as mentioned, pulls off his disguise, dramatically reveals himself to be a gargoyle, and flies away. Which, like looking back, I think it is sort of hinted that, like, yeah, he's killed earlier on and replaced with gargoyle. But I initially did assume he'd just been a gargoyle this whole time. And I kind of want to believe that was the case.
And to be fair, he might be a gargoyle that shapeshifted into a lich. We have no. If we just look at the film, there is no textual evidence that lich is actually his true form.
But yeah, so the lipstick man finally like summons the plague dragon, and that goes well for him. The plague dragon agrees to like give him a big throne and what have you. Then it starts leveling the town, and then the main character's wife learns through the power of faith to multiclass. There's a long monologue on you. Like, at the start, the cleric says, there's something more important than swords and spells for fighting evil. And
they use their cleric powers for fighting people.
yeah, and it turns out that's faith, which is continuity, is spells for fighting people. They like ask, so they then go to track down the evil wizard, and they essentially just ask him to lift the curse, and he says, "Okay, sure."
Yeah, if it was that easy.
But they don't really he doesn't really need any convincing. Like, the final scene is just him in a prison cell looking sad.
There's just a lot of things I don't understand.
So I'm just Also, I'm looking at quotes I written down from the movie, which include Ishmael is at risk, so risks we must take. Blessed are the works of nature, smashes the shit out of a tree with a hammer. And, oh yeah, you'll never stop me wrong. That's the dramatic one-liner.
It's very Gandalf, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I
guess,
prefer white.
but yeah,
Like, I actually liked that. Because just being that glib and a big dramatic villain is beautiful.
yeah, the villain sort of really overacts and really underacts at the same time.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the theatrical equivalent of saying the loud part quiet.
yeah, he's sort of simultaneously very monotonous and incredibly, over the top. Also, unfortunately, I've never been able to control my urges even as a dead man. It's
Yep.
just weird flex. So I don't know if it was just me, and I'm just weird, but a lot of the dialogue seemed to be weirdly innuendo-y. They kept using the word penetrate, and just, I want to joust you with my quills in my bedroom, and I can't control my urges. And it's just, I know you're not reacting, so it's possible I am just weird.
I don't think there is a good explanation for a large part of the dialogue.
Yeah. And as mentioned, the main big bad is getting constant foot massages from a BDSM goblin. I don't think it's ever established who his goblin boyfriend is. Like, whether that's like a minion or an ally or just there.
It's a symbiotic relationship. He likes getting foot massages. The goblin likes giving foot massages.
Yeah.
They're just hanging out, doing the thing.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty certain those two are dating. So I guess good for him. The goblin guy dies, I think.
Probably. There's a lot of unclear fates.
Lots of people have things happen to them. Like, the elven wizard gets her arm, torn off, and it took me, checking the Trifi Tropes page to realize that's what happened.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
entirely missed that.
When she teleports to Big Bad, she gets her arm stuck in a wall, and that's why she's screaming and not helping out. But
Okay, I thought she was just shit.
yeah, I initially thought it was just she just didn't want to be there.
Which is valid. I wouldn't want to be there either. Like, she was just hanging out on Mystical Elf Island, I think.
I think she
And
was
then
just.
got summoned to join this quest.
But yeah, like, because, okay, so at the start, we do, like, a monologue of all of the characters and what they're doing. And, the barbarian's beating someone up. The cleric is stopping people, like, desecrating the church. The thief is, like, tricking 2 other thieves into dying so he can steal the treasure. And the elf is just on a boat.
See, I
She's
did
not
interpret that as traveling over from Mystical Elf Island.
possibly, but still, it doesn't
But
exactly, like...
it doesn't contribute. It doesn't help with the whole she has no personality thing.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly, express, because you've expressed their characters, even if it's, a very cliched character. With her, she owns a boat. That's her thing.
She doesn't even own it. We don't know that she owns it. She's just on
She
it.
has, at least
She
once in
has
her
at
life.
some point travelled over water.
Yeah, at least once in her life, she's been on a boat, and that is genuinely the most you could say about her character. That's the biggest defining characteristic she has.
That, and she does wear crop tops when it's misty out, which is just a
Yeah.
mistake. You're gonna get all the water in your belly button. Put on a jacket.
Maybe that's why she started screaming and, like, not joining in the fight.
It's belly button mold.
I hope you all enjoy, like, the phrase belly button mold. Subscribe to our Patreon for more uses of the phrase belly button mold.
Belly button mold.
But yeah, so, like, I think the fundamental, it's not even, like, so bad it's good so much as just...
So bad
Like,
it's terrible.
it just does sort of feel like hanging out with a bunch of people you don't know and pretending to be... Like, when you're doing an RPG campaign and you just can't get into the character's headspace and it's just you sitting there pretending to be a wizard. And you're sort of acutely aware of, like, of that. It sort of is like a full movie of that.
Yeah.
No
I
one
feel
really...
like there's an alignment chart. And one axis is technically good to technically bad. And the other axis is enjoyable to watch and not enjoyable to watch. This is just like pretty central, honestly. Like there's some pretty good CG, but there's also a lot of ADR and bad acting. And like you can kind of almost get into it in places, but then it kind of pulls back. It's cinematic edging.
That marks, like, the second very good phrase on this our podcast.
I'm so sorry.
For a 20th anniversary, we're gonna say the phrase cinematic edging.
It's our anniversary.
Not anniversary. For our 20th anniversary, which is about as long...
Since I was 5.
Like, to be fair, that's about as long as 2020 has felt at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, if you want to see that bad campaign you made as a 13-year-old made into a full-length movie,
Starring people who look almost like people you've heard of,
then this is the film for you.
Yeah. So I think that's our review of Wrath of the Dragon God.
I just watched the first one, which is at least a lot more enjoyable to watch. Unless you're really committed to seeing a very boring
I think the first one has Tom Baker in it, which is something. But yeah, if you want to support our terrible film habit, and get bonus episodes where we do things other than answering questions and talk about bad films, you can go to patreon.com/probablybadrpgideas.
Despite earlier claims, don't worry, we will not say the phrase belly button mold.
Except just once more. Belly button mold. Should I say the other one as well, just for a nice clean take of it in case anyone wants to use it?
Yeah.
Cinematic edging.
If you want to include those in your podcast, I guess we can't legally stop you.
I mean, technically we could, but I hereby give verbal permission.
You can put as much belly button moles in your RPGs as you want. But yes, thank you for listening. I'm sorry about the direction this took.
I'm not.